The message came on an ordinary Tuesday. It broke through the regular chatter of space traffic and commercial signals that filled Earth's orbital relay stations. The voice was strange, halting, as if the speaker struggled with human language. "We are the Nalari. Our worlds burn, our people die, we ask for help, please." In the United Nations Space Command Center, the room fell silent. For 20 years, humans had known about the Nalari. They were peaceful, brilliant scientists who kept to themselves in their small corner of the galaxy. They traded knowledge with Earth but never asked for anything, until now. Fleet Admiral Olivia Ramirez watched the message replay for the 5th time. The blue-skinned alien on the screen looked exhausted, its 4 eyes blinking at different times in what humans had learned was a sign of extreme stress. "The Vordax come with many ships. They take our minerals. They kill those who resist. We have no weapons to stop them. We remember humans have many warships. Please help." Ramirez turned to face the 12 men and women of the Security Council. "We need to vote now. The Nalari system is 3 weeks away at best speed. Every day matters." General Patrick Ellis shook his head. "We know nothing about these Vordax. This could be a trap. Or worse, we could be jumping into someone else's war." "The Nalari have never lied to us," Ramirez said. "They've shared medical technology that saved millions of lives. They ask for nothing in return until now." The debate lasted 6 hours. In the end, the vote was 7-5. "The 4th Expeditionary Fleet will depart in 24 hours, Ramirez announced. 20 ships, our best crews. I will send the Nalari our response immediately." On the EFS, Defiance, Lieutenant Commander Alan Mitchell stared out the viewport as Earth grew smaller behind them. He still wasn't sure they were doing the right thing. 3 years ago, he had been part of a peacekeeping mission that went wrong. Many good people died because they rushed in without understanding the situation. "Nervous?" a voice asked behind him. Mitchell turned to see Samantha Kelly, the ship's chief engineer. Her red hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her uniform had grease stains already, though they had only left dock 12 hours ago. "Just thinking about what we're flying into," Mitchell said. "The Nalari said these Vordax have more ships than they could count." Kelly smiled. "That's why they called us. Nobody has better ships than humans. Nobody fights harder." Mitchell nodded but didn't feel convinced. "We might be outnumbered 10-1. Then we'll just have to be 10 times smarter," Kelly said with a wink. She handed him a tablet. "Captain wants your tactical assessment in an hour. For the next 3 weeks, the fleet moved through hyperspace. More messages came from the Nalari, each one more desperate than the last. The Vordax had taken 3 outer colonies. They stripped each planet of metals and rare elements, leaving nothing but barren rock behind." On the command deck, Mitchell worked with the tactical team running simulations. The Nalari had sent what little they knew about Vordax ships and weapons. The news wasn't good. "Their ships are like nothing we've seen," Mitchell told Captain Lisa Donovan. "Part organic, part machine. They're huge. Even their smallest ships are twice the size of the Defiance." Donovan studied the projections. "Any weaknesses?" "Maybe." Mitchell pointed to an area near what looked like a central nerve cluster. "Their ships seem to share a linked communication system. Hit them here and we might disrupt their coordination." Across the fleet, 20 ships prepared for battle. Marines checked their gear. Pilots ran drills in simulators. Engineers modified shields and weapons based on the limited data they had. Admiral Ramirez sent one final message to all ships. 3 weeks in hyperspace felt like 3 months. The crew of the 20-ship fleet dealt with the waiting in different ways. Some watched old movies. Others played cards. Many just worked longer hours. Chief Engineer Samantha Kelly barely slept. She lived in the engine room, surrounded by tools and spare parts. The Nalari had sent information about Vordax weapons. The data wasn't good. Their energy beams could cut through standard shields like they were paper. "Pass me that circuit board," Kelly said to her assistant. Her hands were deep in an open panel of the shield generator. "If we change the frequency every 6 seconds, their weapons might not have time to adjust." On the other side of the ship, Dr. Nathan Reeves and his diplomatic team studied everything known about both alien species. The room was filled with holographic displays showing Nalari cities and what little they had on the Vordax. The Nalari are scientists and explorers, Reeves told his team. They've never built weapons. Not once in their 5,000 years of recorded history. A young analyst named Ben Rogers looked up from his screen. And the Vordax? Reeves pulled up a new image. It showed a planet that looked like it had been skinned alive. The surface was stripped down to bare rock. This was a Nalari mining colony. The Vordax took everything of value and left. No plants, no animals, nothing but rock. In the combat training room, Lieutenant Commander Mitchell ran battle drills with the tactical officers. Sweat soaked through his uniform as he moved holographic ships around a display of the Nalari system. They'll expect us to protect the homeworld first, he said, pointing to a blue planet in the center. But I think we should hit them here, at their supply lines. He moved several red dots to show his plan. Captain Donovan watched from the doorway. Risky. We'd be leaving the Nalari exposed. Mitchell nodded. Yes, but only for a few hours. If we cut off their supply ships, the main force will have to pull back. Run it again, Donovan said. Show me how it works. On the flagship EFS Intrepid, Admiral Ramirez received new messages from Earth and from the Nalari. The news was worse. The Vordax had taken 2 more colonies. Millions of Nalari were dead or missing. Ramirez called a meeting with all ship captains via hologram. 20 faces appeared around her table, some tired, some afraid, all determined. New intelligence suggests the Vordax have never encountered humans before, she said. This gives us one advantage. Surprise. They don't know what our weapons can do. Captain Gregory Hayes of the battleship Intrepid spoke up. The Nalari say the Vordax ships heal themselves, like living things. Then we'll have to hit them hard enough that they can't heal, Ramirez said. Any damage reports from your ship modifications? Captain Donovan spoke next. The Defiance has increased shield strength by 27%, thanks to Chief Kelly's work. We've shared the specs with all ships. As the meeting continued, Private Joe Miller floated in zero gravity, helping to load missiles into the launch tubes of the destroyer EFS Valor. It was his first mission. He had joined the Space Force just 6 months ago. You scared? Asked Sergeant Pam White as she checked the warhead seals. A little, Miller admitted. Never thought my first fight would be for aliens I've never even met. White smiled. That's what makes us human. We help those who need it. In his quarters, Mitchell studied the Nalari homeworld on his tablet. Beautiful blue oceans, tall silver, cities, forests with purple trees, a world worth saving. His door chimed. Kelly walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. Couldn't sleep either? She asked, handing him a cup. Mitchell shook his head. Tomorrow we arrive. Tomorrow we fight. We'll win, Kelly said simply. How can you be so sure? Kelly sat on the edge of his desk. Because we have to. The Nalari can't fight for themselves. We're all they have. As the final hours of hyperspace travel ticked down, the fleet made ready. Weapons were charged. Fighters were fueled. Marines checked their armor one last time. On every ship, crews took a final moment of peace. Some prayed. Some wrote letters home. Some just sat quietly with friends. In just 6 hours, they would arrive at the edge of the Nalari system. In just 6 hours, humanity would answer the call for help with fire and steel. The night before, they were set to arrive. Tomorrow we make history. For the first time, humanity goes to war not for ourselves, but for another species that has asked for our help. The Nalari cannot defend themselves. We can. We will. Sleep well tonight. Tomorrow we show the galaxy what humanity stands for. Mitchell lay in his bunk, unable to sleep. Tomorrow they would exit hyperspace at the edge of the Nalari system. Tomorrow they would face an enemy no human had ever seen before. Tomorrow they would find out if humanity's battle fleet was enough. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nalari system. Alarms sounded across every ship as sensors came online. My God, whispered Captain Donovan on the bridge of the Defiance. The main screen showed the 3rd planet of the system. Half of it was on fire. The other half was stripped down to bare rock. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell stared at the tactical display. Red dots filled the screen. Enemy ships, hundreds of them. Some were small, about the size of a human fighter. Others were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. All ships, battle stations. Admiral Ramirez's voice came through the comms. Defensive formation Delta. Protect the Defiance until we make contact with Nalari survivors. Mitchell watched as the fleet moved into position. The battleships formed an outer ring. The destroyers filled in the gaps. The Defiance, with its advanced communication systems, stayed in the center. Incoming transmission, said Communications Officer Kate Hudson. It's from the Nalari homeworld. The main screen changed. A Nalari appeared. Its blue skin was pale, almost white with stress. 2 of its 4 eyes were bandaged. Humans, the alien said in its musical voice. You came. We feared you would not. Admiral Ramirez appeared on a split screen. We keep our promises. I am Fleet Admiral Olivia Ramirez of Earth. Who am I speaking with? I am Chief Scientist Talon. I lead what remains of our resistance. The Vordax have taken our outer colonies. They approach our homeworld now. We have 3 days before they arrive. We're picking up enemy ships heading this way, Mitchell reported. 5 large vessels. They must have detected our arrival. Ramirez nodded. Chief Scientist, we need to meet in person. We're sending a shuttle to your coordinates. Our ships will engage the Vordax to cover the approach. The screen split again. Captain Gregory Hayes of the battleship Intrepid appeared. Admiral, my ship will lead the attack. We'll keep them busy while you make contact. Approved, Ramirez said. All ships prepare to engage. On the Intrepid, Captain Hayes moved to the center of his bridge. Weapons hot, shields at maximum. Target the lead enemy vessel. The 5 Vordax ships grew larger on the screen. They didn't look like human ships at all. Their hulls were bumpy and seemed to pulse like skin. Strange growth stuck out at odd angles. Some parts glowed with an unhealthy green light. What are those things? Asked Weapons Officer Frank Peterson. Doesn't matter, Hayes said. They're threatening the Nalari, and we're here to stop them. The Intrepid fired first. Bright blue energy beams shot across space. They hit the lead Vordax ship. The alien vessel shuddered. A section of its hull burned away. But then, before their eyes, the damage began to heal. The burned section grew back like new skin over a wound. They really do heal themselves, Hayes said quietly. Hit them again. Don't give them time to recover. The human fleet opened fire. The space between the ships filled with energy beams, missiles, and projectiles. The Vordax ships fired back. Their weapons were strange. Glowing green bolts that seemed to follow the human ships like they were alive. On the Defiance, Mitchell watched the battle while preparing for the shuttle mission. He would go with Admiral Ramirez to meet the Nalari leaders. The modified shields are holding, Chief Engineer Kelly reported. But every hit drains more power than we expected. A destroyer exploded on the tactical screen. The first human casualty. Mitchell felt his throat tighten. The Vordax are transmitting something, Hudson said from her console. It's not directed at us. I think they're calling for reinforcements. In the shuttle bay, Admiral Ramirez briefed the team that would go to the planet. Mitchell stood with Dr. Reeves and a squad of Marines. Our fleet will buy us time, Ramirez said. But we need the Nalari's help to understand what we're fighting. This is first contact in a war zone, people. Let's make it count. As the shuttle launched, Mitchell looked out the window. Above them, human ships fought and died against an enemy they barely understood. For a species they had never met. The shuttle landed in what was once a beautiful plaza. Now, it was an emergency command center. Broken buildings surrounded it. Nalari moved quickly between makeshift shelters. Their blue skin and 4 eyes made them look strange to human eyes, but their fear looked just the same. Admiral Ramirez stepped out first, followed by Mitchell and Dr. Reeves. A group of Nalari approached them. The one in front was taller than the others. This was Chief Scientist Talon. Thank you for coming, Talon said. His voice had a musical quality that the translator couldn't quite capture. We have little time. The main Vordax fleet will reach our homeworld in less than 3 days. We need to understand what we're fighting, Ramirez said. Our weapons damage their ships, but they heal quickly. Talon led them into a large building. Inside, screens showed the battle in orbit. Human ships fired at the Vordax vessels. Some Vordax ships burned, but others kept fighting even with massive damage. The Vordax are not like us or like you, Talon explained. They are a hive mind. Each ship is part of a greater whole. They do not fear death as individuals. Dr. Reeves studied the displays. What do they want? Why attack your people? Resources, said a female Nalari who stood nearby. I am scientist Mira. We have studied the Vordax for years. They consume. That is their purpose. They take metals, minerals, biological matter, anything they can use to build more of themselves. Mitchell watched the battle on the screens. The human fleet was holding its own, but the Vordax ships kept coming. They moved in strange patterns, always shifting, never staying still. There's something odd about their formations, he said. They move together, but not like any fleet I've seen before. Mira nodded. They are connected. All Vordax share thoughts. Their ships move as one body with many parts. Back in orbit on the bridge of the Defiance, Communications Officer Hudson was working with her team to intercept Vordax signals. The strange pulses they detected didn't seem like language at first. It's not radio, Hudson said. It's not light. It's something else. Engineer Kelly joined her at the console. It's like they're using quantum entanglement. Their ships are talking to each other instantly, no matter the distance. Hudson's eyes widened. If we could tap into that network, we might hear what they're saying, Kelly finished. On the planet, Admiral Ramirez and the Nalari leaders planned their defense. The Nalari had technology humans had never seen. Energy shields that could cover entire cities, medical devices that could heal almost any wound, and power sources that could run for centuries. Why don't you have weapons? Mitchell asked. With all this technology, you could build amazing defenses. Talon looked sad. We chose another path long ago. We decided to create, not destroy. For 5,000 years it served us well, until the Vordax came. Ramirez studied the star maps. We need to combine our strengths. You have the technology. We know how to fight. In a lab nearby, Dr. Reeves examined samples from a damaged Vordax ship. Under a microscope, the material looked both mechanical and organic. It moved slightly as if alive. This is incredible, he said. Their ships aren't just made of metal. They're partly biological. They grow their technology. Mitchell joined him. Is that why they can heal? Yes, Reeves said. But it might also be a weakness. Living things can get sick. Back on the Defiance, Hudson made a breakthrough. Her team had captured some Vordax communications. The computer translated them into words. Listen to this, she told Captain Donovan, playing the recording. Unknown vessels, unknown weapons, damage significant, request analysis. These new creatures fight differently. They protect the weak ones, inefficient, wasteful. We'll study their tactics. We'll adapt. Donovan's face grew serious. They're learning about us, but they've never seen humans fight before. That's our advantage. On the planet, Mitchell noticed something on one of the screens. The Vordax ships moved in a circular pattern, always rotating around one massive ship in the center. What's that? He asked, pointing. Talon looked grim. The Hive ship. It directs all others. It contains the primary consciousness of the Vordax. In this sector, Mitchell felt a chill. If we destroyed that ship, the others would be confused, at least temporarily, Mira said. But the Hive ship is more heavily protected than anything you've ever seen. No Nalari weapon could penetrate its defenses. Mitchell smiled for the first time since arriving. Good. Thing we didn't bring Nalari weapons. We brought human ones. The Nalari homeworld grew larger in the viewport. From space, it still looked beautiful. Blue oceans, green land masses, and silver cities. But as they got closer, Mitchell could see the scars. Burning forests, ruined buildings, the marks of a world at war. Look, Dr. Reeves pointed at something in orbit around the planet. A massive Nalari space station was breaking apart. The Vordax had already reached it. "They're so efficient," Mitchell said as they watched. "They take it apart piece by piece. Nothing wasted." The shuttle dove toward the planet's surface, racing to meet the last hope of the Nalari people. Admiral Ramirez stood before the captains of the human fleet. Some were present in person. Others appeared as holograms from their ships. All looked tired but determined. "The Nalari have given us everything they know about the Vordax," she said. "Lieutenant Commander Mitchell has developed a plan." Mitchell stepped forward. The room fell silent. For 3 days, the human fleet had fought small groups of Vordax ships. They won most battles, but more enemy ships arrived every hour. "The Vordax move in patterns," Mitchell said, showing a 3D map of enemy movements. "They protect this large ship in the center. The Nalari call it the hive ship. It controls all others. If we destroy it, the rest will be confused, at least for a while." Captain Hayes of the Intrepid frowned. "Getting close to that ship won't be easy. It has more defenses than all our ships combined." "That's why we won't attack it directly," Mitchell said. "We'll use their own patterns against them. When they move to surround us, they create a gap here." He pointed to a spot on the map. A small, fast ship could slip through. The captain studied the plan. It was risky, but it might work. "The Defiance will lead the attack," Admiral Ramirez decided. "Captain Donovan, prepare your ship. The rest of the fleet will provide cover." Back on the Defiance, Engineer Kelly worked with Nalari scientists to modify the ship's weapons. The blue-skinned aliens moved with careful precision as they added their technology to human guns. "This will increase your weapon power by 60%, Scientist Mira explained. "But the energy drain is enormous. You'll only have enough power for 3 shots at full strength." Kelly nodded. 3 shots is all we need if we hit the right spot." In the medical bay, Dr. Reeves had made a discovery. He showed Mitchell a sample of Vordax material under a microscope. "Their ships are partly alive," Reeves said. "They share a nervous system. That's how they communicate so quickly." Mitchell watched the cells pulse with strange energy. "Can we disrupt it?" "Maybe." Reeves adjusted the scanner. "The Nalari have developed a virus that might interfere with their neural network. It won't kill them, but it could confuse them long enough for us to strike." On the bridge, Communications Officer Hudson monitored Vordax transmissions. Their language was becoming clearer as the computer analyzed more data. "They're planning something big," she told Captain Donovan. "They're bringing their main fleet to attack the Nalari homeworld tomorrow." Donovan's face hardened. "Then we attack tonight." The human fleet gathered at the edge of the Nalari system, 20 ships against hundreds of Vordax vessels. The odds weren't good, but humans had faced bad odds before. Admiral Ramirez addressed the fleet one last time. "The Nalari can't defend themselves. They never developed weapons because they believed in peace. Today we fight not just for them, but for the idea that peaceful civilizations deserve to exist. That strength comes with responsibility, that humans stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves." On the Defiance, Mitchell checked the tactical systems one last time. The ship would lead the attack, getting close enough to launch a specialized missile at the hive ship. The missile contained the virus Dr. Reeves had helped develop. "Ready?" Kelly asked, joining him on the bridge. Mitchell nodded. "Not really, but we're going anyway." Captain Donovan took her chair. "All stations report. Weapons ready. Engines at full power. Shields modified and holding. Communications clear." Donovan looked at the enemy fleet on the main screen. Hundreds of organic-looking ships floated in space surrounding the massive hive ship. "Begin attack pattern," she ordered. "Full speed ahead." The human fleet moved forward as one. The Defiance in the lead, the others spread out in a fan formation. For a moment, space was quiet. Then the Vordax responded. Their ships moved with eerie coordination, forming a wall of living metal. Green energy weapons fired from all directions. Space erupted in fire as human and Vordax ships clashed. The Defiance shook as enemy weapons hit its shields. On the bridge, Captain Donovan gripped her chair. "Shield status?" she called out. "Holding at 60%. an officer replied. "The Nalari modifications are working." Mitchell watched the tactical display. The human fleet was following his plan, creating a wedge formation that drove toward the Vordax lines. The enemy ships moved to surround them just as he'd predicted. "They're taking the bait," Mitchell said. "The gap is forming on the left flank." Donovan nodded. "Helm, prepare to break formation on my mark. We'll only have seconds to get through that gap." Throughout the fleet, human ships fought with everything they had. The battleship Intrepid took heavy damage but kept firing. Its main guns tore through 3 Vordax vessels in quick succession. On the Intrepid's bridge, Captain Hayes directed the battle despite a bleeding wound on his forehead. "Concentrate fire on the larger ships," he ordered. "Don't let them heal." The HFY strategy worked. The human weapons, enhanced with Nalari technology, caused damage faster than the Vordax ships could repair themselves. For the first time, the enemy seemed surprised. On the Defiance, Communications Officer Hudson monitored the Vordax signals. "They're confused," she reported. "Their usual tactics aren't working against us. They're trying to adapt." Captain Donovan saw their chance. "Now, break formation." The Defiance turned sharply and accelerated toward the gap in the Vordax formation. 2 destroyers followed to provide cover. The rest of the fleet continued the frontal assault, drawing enemy attention. For a moment it seemed the plan would work perfectly. The Defiance slipped through the Vordax lines and raced toward the hive ship. They were halfway there when everything changed. "New contacts," shouted the sensor officer. "Lots of them, coming in from behind the moon." The tactical display filled with new red dots. A second Vordax fleet had arrived, at least twice the size of the first one. Admiral Ramirez's voice came through the comms. "All ships, defensive positions. Protect the Defiance at all costs." The human fleet tried to regroup, but the new Vordax ships hit them from behind. Caught between 2 enemy forces, the humans began to take heavy losses. The destroyer EFS Valor exploded after taking multiple direct hits. The cruiser EFS Guardian lost power and drifted helplessly. One by one, human ships were damaged or destroyed. On the Intrepid, a massive explosion rocked the ship. Captain Hayes was thrown from his chair as consoles exploded around him. "Engine room destroyed," reported his first officer. "We're losing power to all systems." Hayes pulled himself up, blood now covering half his face. "Evacuate the crew. Get everyone to the escape pods." "What about you, sir?" Hayes looked at the tactical display. The Defiance was still pushing toward the hive ship, but more Vordax vessels were moving to intercept it. "I'm staying," he said quietly. "The Defiance needs cover. We still have weapons. I'll go." As the crew evacuated, Hayes took manual control of the weapons. The dying battleship turned toward the enemy, guns blazing one last time. On the Defiance, Mitchell watched in horror as the Intrepid burned. The massive ship was falling apart, but its guns still fired, clearing a path for them. "Captain Hayes is covering us," Mitchell said, his voice tight. Captain Donovan nodded, her face grim. "Don't waste his sacrifice. Keep on course." The Defiance pushed forward, but more Vordax ships moved to block their path. The distance to the hive ship seemed impossible now. Admiral Ramirez's voice came through again, breaking up with static. "Defiance, abort mission. Return to formation. We need to regroup." Donovan hesitated, looking at Mitchell. "We're too close to give up," he said. "But we can't reach the hive ship. Not now." On the planet below, the Nalari watched their sensors in dismay. The human fleet was being torn apart. Ships that came to save them were dying one by one. Chief Scientist Talon made a difficult decision. "Contact Admiral Ramirez. Tell her to retreat. Save what ships she can. We will not ask humans to die for us." In space, the Intrepid made its final stand. Captain Hayes, alone on the bridge, targeted a cluster of Vordax ships blocking the Defiance's escape route. "For Earth," he whispered. "For the Nalari." The battleship rammed into the enemy formation at full speed. The explosion was visible across the entire battlefield, momentarily brighter than the system's sun. The battle for the Nalari homeworld had begun. On the surface, Chief Scientist Talon and his people watched the sky light up with explosions. Human ships they had never met until days ago were now dying to protect them. "I do not understand," Talon said quietly. "Why do they fight so hard for us?" His assistant looked up at the battle. "Because they are human. And this is what humans do." The remaining human ships limped back to the Nalari homeworld. Of the 20 vessels that had answered the call for help, only 12 remained. Some were badly damaged. All had lost crew members. On the planet's surface, the Nalari helped the humans set up a base of operations. Their advanced medical technology saved many wounded sailors and Marines who would have died otherwise. In the command center, Admiral Ramirez looked older than she had just days ago. The loss of Captain Hayes and the Intrepid weighed heavily on her. Earth Command had sent a message after hearing about their losses. "Consider withdrawal. Primary mission is to protect human lives." Mitchell found the Admiral staring at this message in her office. "We're not leaving, are we?" he asked. Ramirez shook her head. "No. We came to help the Nalari, and that's what we'll do. But we need a new plan." She looked at him. "You're now acting captain of the Defiance. Captain Donovan is taking command of our remaining battleship." Mitchell felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "Thank you, Admiral. I won't let you down." In the science lab, Chief Engineer Kelly worked with Dr. Reeves and the Nalari scientists. The virus they had developed wasn't deployed because they couldn't reach the hive ship. "We need a new delivery system," Kelly said, rubbing her tired eyes. "Something the Vordax won't expect." Scientist Mira looked up from her console. "What if we don't target the hive ship directly? What if we use their own network against them?" Kelly's eyes widened. "The quantum entanglement communication. If we could insert the virus there." On the Defiance, now in orbit around the Nalari homeworld, Communications Officer Hudson made a discovery while analyzing the Vordax transmissions. "They're planning to attack tomorrow," she told Mitchell. "All their ships at once. They want to end this quickly." Mitchell nodded. The bridge felt empty without Captain Donovan. "How many ships?" "Over 500, Hudson said quietly. "We don't have enough firepower to stop them." Mitchell stared at the tactical display, thinking. Something about the Vordax formations kept bothering him. They always moved in perfect coordination like a dance, he murmured. "They move like dancers following the same music." He rushed to the science lab where Kelly and the others were working. "I think I know how to beat them. They're too perfect, too coordinated. That's their weakness." In the command center, Mitchell presented his new plan to Admiral Ramirez and the other captains. It was even riskier than the first one. "We don't attack the hive ship," he explained. "We attack their communication network instead. We broadcast the virus on the same frequencies they use to coordinate their fleet." Dr. Reeves nodded excitedly. It could work. Their ships are partly biological. They're sensitive to specific energy patterns. If we can disrupt those patterns, they'll lose coordination. Admiral Ramirez finished. "How close would we need to get?" "That's the hard part," Kelly said. "We need to be inside their fleet formation, right in the middle where the signal is strongest." The room fell silent. Going into the middle of the Vordax fleet was suicide. "I'll take the Defiance," Mitchell said. "It has the strongest shields and the best communication systems." "You won't make it out," Donovan warned, now wearing a captain's insignia for the Battleship Justice. "We don't need to," Mitchell replied. "We just need to broadcast the virus long enough for it to spread." Admiral Ramirez studied the plan. It was desperate, but they had no better options. The Vordax would destroy the Nalari homeworld if they didn't act. "Approved," she said finally. "But we modify the plan. The Defiance will carry a small strike team. You'll broadcast the virus, then evacuate in escape pods while the fleet creates a diversion." Mitchell nodded. It wasn't much better odds, but it gave them a chance. Throughout the night, humans and Nalari worked together to prepare. The remaining ships were repaired as best they could be. The virus was refined and loaded into the Defiance's communication systems. In his new captain's quarters, Mitchell recorded a message to be sent to Earth if he didn't return. He spoke of the bravery of the human fleet, of Captain Hayes's sacrifice, and of the friendship forming between humans and Nalari. Dawn broke over the Nalari homeworld. In orbit, sensors detected the Vordax fleet moving into position, over 500 ships arranged in their perfect formation around the massive hive ship. On the bridge of the Defiance, Acting Captain Mitchell looked at his small crew. They were tired but ready. "This is our last chance," he said. "The Nalari homeworld has 4 billion people. We don't let them down." Admiral Ramirez contacted them from the surface. "The remaining fleet will create a diversion on the far side of the planet. That should draw some of their ships away. Once you're in position, broadcast the virus and get to the escape pods." "Understood, Admiral," Mitchell replied. "It's been an honor." The Defiance powered up its engines. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Kelly made final adjustments to the power systems. They would need every bit of energy for the shields. "Ready down here?" she reported. "Shields modified to maximum strength. They'll hold for about 6 minutes, under heavy fire." In the communications center, Hudson and Dr. Reeves prepared the virus for broadcast. "I've set it to transmit on all the frequencies we've identified," Hudson said. "Once we start, it can't be stopped." The time for talking was over. The Defiance moved away from the protection of the Nalari homeworld. The other human ships headed in the opposite direction, firing weapons to attract attention. The Vordax took the bait. Nearly half their fleet moved to engage the human ships. The rest stayed in formation, protecting the hive ship. "Now," Mitchell ordered. The Defiance accelerated to full speed, heading straight for the heart of the Vordax fleet. At first, the enemy didn't seem to notice the single ship. They were focused on the larger battle. By the time they detected the Defiance, it was already passing through their outer defensive line. "They're targeting us," reported the tactical officer. "Multiple weapons locks." Green energy beams lashed out from dozens of Vordax ships. The Defiance's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the hits. "Shields at 80%, Kelly reported. "Still moving." The Defiance pushed deeper into the enemy formation. More and more Vordax ships turned to attack it, but they had to be careful not to hit their own vessels. "We're almost in position," Hudson called out. "Just a little closer." The ship shuddered as a particularly powerful hit struck the shields. Lights flickered on the bridge. "Shields at 40%, Kelly warned. 3 minutes left at best. The Defiance reached the center of the Vordax formation. The hive ship loomed above them, massive and threatening. "We're in position," Hudson said. "Broadcasting now." The virus began to transmit, writing the same quantum signals the Vordax used to communicate. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Mitchell noticed something strange. "Look," he said, pointing at the tactical display. "Their formation is breaking." All around them, Vordax ships began to move erratically. Some fired weapons at nothing. Others crashed into each other. The perfect coordination was gone. "It's working," Dr. Reeves shouted. "The virus is disrupting their neural network." The bridge shook violently as a direct hit struck the Defiance. Warning lights flashed everywhere. "Shields failing," Kelly reported. "We need to get to the escape pods now." Mitchell nodded. "All hands. Abandon ship. Set the Defiance on collision course with the hive ship." The crew raced to the escape pods as Mitchell programmed the final course. The damaged ship would crash into the hive ship, delivering the virus directly to the heart of the Vordax consciousness. As the last escape pod launched, Mitchell looked back at his ship one last time. Then he joined the others, launching away. From the chaos, from the pods, they watched as the Defiance struck the hive ship. A massive explosion tore through both vessels. The virus spread throughout the entire Vordax fleet. Ships spun in confusion or went completely dead in space. The human fleet, seeing the opportunity, pressed their attack. Without coordination, the Vordax ships were easy targets. On the Nalari homeworld, billions watched as their skies cleared of enemy ships. The human fleet had done the impossible. 3 days later, Admiral Ramirez stood in the grand hall of the Nalari capital. Chief Scientist Talon presented her with a crystal orb, their highest honor. You came when we called, Talon said, his voice carrying to all present. You fought for people you had never met. Many of you died for us we will never forget. Ramirez accepted the orb. This is what humanity does. We answer calls for help. We stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. Mitchell stood. With Kelly, Hudson, and Dr. Reeves. They wore new medals on their uniforms, but their thoughts were with those who didn't return. Was it worth it? Hudson asked quietly. Mitchell looked at the Nalari families around them, children playing safely because of what humans had done. Yes, he said. This is why we came. As humans and Nalari celebrated together, news of their victory spread across the galaxy. As he finished, there was a knock at his door. Kelly stood there with Dr. Reeves and Communications Officer Hudson. We're coming with you, Kelly said simply. You'll need us to make the virus work. Mitchell looked at their determined faces. It's going to be dangerous. Hudson smiled slightly. That's why we volunteered. Outside, the sun rose on what might be the last day for the Nalari civilization. The Vortex fleet was gathering. Humanity's answer would soon be delivered.